Hi everyone, welcome to our channel Sitare. My name is Sheetal and I'm your host, and today we are meeting our second guest, Mr. Bram, who is the CEO of Solventure as well as founder of Strategy Driven Supply Chain Institute. So welcome, Bram.
Thank you.
So let's start with our question. So as we know that we are meeting here for the 7th annual European Supply Chain Strategy Management Summit, why don't we start with the agenda that you had in your mind, being a keynote speaker in the same?
Yeah, happy to do that. What I brought in my keynote is how I see supply chain evolve quite recently. It's also linked to the books I've written and a new book I'm writing that I would say how I came to understand supply chain is that one of the key challenges is balancing service, cost and cash. We need to deliver service to the customer. We need to keep the costs under control. We need to keep the inventory or the cash under control. And I shared ideas on how we can include the sustainability dimension because it's not just about service, cost and cash. It's also about we need to do it with less CO2 or in an environmentally friendly way. And we also need to respect certain social practices, like we want to take good care of our people, and not just our people, but also the people at suppliers and second-tier suppliers. So that makes supply chain a lot more complex, in combination with the fact that the volatility has increased a lot since COVID. So there's more parameters at play in a more chaotic world. So that really means that the complexity of supply chain management has increased dramatically, and that we also need to adjust our supply chain practices and supply chain capabilities. That's in a nutshell what I tried to bring to the group earlier today.
That was really informative. Thanks for that. Now we would like to know something about your career. As we know that you have started your career with a bachelor's in mathematics, followed by master's and doctorate in operations research. So we would like to know, how was your career journey look like when you look back couple of years where you have tried to connect the dots from mathematics combined with your passion as a supply chain or sales and operational professional?
Let me say that my career, when I was 18 years old, I had no idea what I wanted to do or where I wanted to end up. And I think, as you say, I always try to follow my passion a little bit. And I was very good in mathematics. Mm-hmm. And I also liked it a lot, so solving complex puzzles, it was triggering my attention, so that's why I started studying mathematics. My bachelor, basically also my master, was in mathematics. When I graduated then in mathematics, I had no real idea what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I could have go and work for a bank to make risk models, or I could have worked in pharmaceutical companies to do the mathematical side of clinical studies. Mm-hmm. But I think I chose for an IT job because I wanted to learn new stuff. So in a certain sense, following your passion and also curiosity, I think these are good drivers. Like if you follow your passion and you have sufficient curiosity, that's in the end what brought me to supply chain. But I first started in IT, mm-hmm. Which I did for 5 years, and which was fun. And then, I found out for myself that IT was interesting, but more as a means to an end, not as a goal in itself. So mm-hmm. I said, okay, I want to shift out of IT. Mm-hmm. And I was following an MBA program at the time. Mm-hmm. And I got an opportunity in supply chain consulting. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, well, supply chain, it fits well with the MBA program because supply chain is really at the crossroads and it's connecting different functions. Yep. It fits well with my mathematical background because mm-hmm. if you talk about forecasting or inventory optimization, there's a mathematical side to it. And I'm not afraid of it. On the contrary, I like it. And it's also very information intensive. So if you want to improve supply chain, you need to improve information flows.
Yeah.
So how does IT play a role in that? I thought, okay, that could be a good match. So then I switched from IT into supply chain consulting, and that supply chain consulting brought me to S&OP. So I think it took a while for me to find an area where my interests and my passion and my curiosity came together. But once I found that spot, to me it also really felt like it was a good spot for me to be in.
Okay. So as you mentioned that you were trying to figure out after your bachelor's that which profession would really suits you as per your passion. Would you like to share any of the interesting experience that you might had in your earlier career, we would say, where you were trying to leverage your education combined with your fashion for numbers or structures, which you have used in one of your experience as a supply chain professional, and while doing so you discovered that, okay, this is the thing that I should go for?
Yeah. Well, if I see how my basic training as a mathematician influenced my career, is that in general people think that mathematicians are good with numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily very good with numbers. That's what I learned as a mathematician was make abstract models. And like you have geometry, and then you have 2 points, and 2 points, there's only one line which can pass.
Yeah.
And then in mathematics, they define alternative geometries, and they say, okay, what if now 2 points would have an infinite number of lines passing through? How would the world look like? So you learn to reason in abstract models. And on the one hand, already in my IT period, it meant that I was conceptualizing things like but the better example is if I now look at the supply chain, like trying to understand the world and capture it in models like that supply chain triangle, and how do we now link sustainability to that triangle. So building models which helps people to understand the problem at hand, and which can be a starting point to define solutions. Like, but if this is the triangle we need to balance, or we need to now balance the triangle also accounting for social metrics and environmental metrics, how does a process like S&OP then help to solve that question? So by building models, it helps me and helps people to come to grips with the situation. So I would say that's where my mathematical brain and my mathematical training and my mathematical passion found its way, for instance, in my supply chain profession today.
Yeah, that's really great to hear, the alternative way to look at the supply chain professional for a person who is not coming from the similar background. Since we are talking about an S&OP process, we would like to ask you, we understand that S&OP process is one of the important driver for any business, because that is going to be the final decision where we are going to define the KPIs for any industry or for any business. So do you think post-COVID or a situation like war or changing in other economic factors, the way S&OP process was there 4 years back versus now has changed? And if yes, then how?
I'm afraid it has not changed, which is not good, but it has become even more crucial, because basically what an S&OP process does is connecting functions. It's connecting the sales function. Sales is trying to sell to customers, to the production function, who needs to decide how much to produce, to the supplier function or the supply function, which needs to decide how to buy, let's put it like that, and the logistics function, also the finance function, because Also, finance needs to understand what we are going to earn or not going to earn.
Yeah.
And also the marketing function, in the sense like, if we have a change in the product portfolio and we want to phase out an old technology and phase in a new technology. So what S&OP does is connecting different functions in the organization. And if the market is relatively stable, which has been the case from 2010 till pre-COVID 2020, then those connections can be relatively loose. But if markets are changing quickly, which happened in COVID, all of a sudden we didn't have enough supply. We didn't really know whether consumers or customers were going to continue to buy. And maybe in the beginning they didn't buy, but then all of a sudden they started buying again. So the changes were much more frequent, and the changes were also much bigger than we had the years before. And then it's really crucial that the information flows, because otherwise sales is promising things to customers which production cannot deliver because the suppliers cannot follow, which causes a lot of issues. It causes financial impact. But also, as I discussed today, it causes a lot of non-financial impact. It creates a lot of stress and pressure on people, leading to burnout. So it has an important social impact. It also has an environmental impact, because if we then deliver false promises to customers, we don't want to be late, so then we will put stuff on air freight instead of putting things on the boat, which has a negative CO2 impact. So the processes are much more important. So it's much more important in a volatile environment that we connect all the functions and that we connect them well and quickly. But the buy-in for the S&OP process is still below where it should be. Like salespeople still don't think that they need to do a proper effort in forecasting, and finance is still very reluctant to fully leverage the S&OP process to make financial decisions. They prefer to have their own process and their own forecasting process to predict what the profitability is going to be. So there's a lot of hesitation within companies to fully leverage the S&OP process, but the need to do so has increased dramatically because the environment has become much more volatile.
So in this age of volatility, where there is a need to change our existing processes, and since we are observing that everybody is talking about this AI technology, do you think leveraging AI technology specifically in a demand process, like for example generating the statistical forecast for future months, will help us to reduce the burden on the people, those who are working in the supply chain domain?
Yes, I'm a big believer in technology. Artificial intelligence is mathematics, so I'm obliged to be a fan of artificial intelligence. So I would say yes. There are already powerful techniques today. There are forecasting methods which have been around since the 60s and which are extrapolation methods. The good thing about AI is you can feed a lot more data. And if you feed more data, in general, you have more information. So the output should become better. It's a learning process. So the first AI model you build doesn't necessarily have a dramatic different result, but it's certainly the way we should go, because there is more and more data available, and more information in the end leads to better results. But it will help, but it won't change the mindset of people. So I think one of the key challenges today is convincing sales, convincing finance to put structural time and effort into collaboration in the S&OP process, and AI will not change that. So the collaboration is human intelligence, not artificial intelligence. And one of the big challenges is the human intelligence. And that challenge will remain the same.
Okay, so do you think that the kind of the resistance that we are seeing in any organization where there is a lot of reluctance to adopt new AI technologies because of they are always having a fear of losing their employment with the company, because probably they believe that their place, they are just replaceable employee, and probably AI can do their work and they would not require in future for the company. What is your observation on this?
I think the work will change in the sense that I can only hope that a lot of let's put it like that, that for instance AI will help us to improve the quality of the data. So companies need to put a lot of effort in cleaning data, because a planning system is very data intensive. So if you put garbage data in, it will be garbage data out. So to take a positive example, like I really hope that AI technologies will help us to better predict, like, okay, these are common mistakes, and if we see this and that, then that could possibly also go wrong. Can also come up with suggested corrections, so that at least a part of the work we do today and we don't like, that could be done faster by AI type of techniques. But the computer will never fully take over. Like, I think demand planning is a good example. Demand planning always has two sides. There is an analytical side, which is the data part, but there is also a human side. Because even if I feed an AI model with all the data of the world, if a customer tomorrow decides to start doing dual sourcing because they say, okay, I want to reduce my dependency on a single supplier and go to dual sourcing, some kind of how that information might only get through us through human knowledge, because our salesperson talk to our customer. So there's always a human and relational side. And so in that sense, as a planner, I would not be concerned that our job will be fully taking over, because that human side will always remain so important. There is a bigger risk, for instance, in finance, where a lot of the accounting work can be fully taken over, and that's also what you see today. Like, if I have an invoice and if I load it into my accounting software, the accounting software automatically detects which is the counterparty, which is the amount. So a lot of this manual work can easily be automated. So if it's just copying data from a paper sheet into a computer, those jobs will disappear. But okay, you can question yourself whether these jobs are so fulfilling to people today. So I do think that there are functions and jobs where the impact of AI and digitalization could be much bigger, but I'm not too concerned that planners' jobs will be fully taken over. The human aspect is way too important, and the complexity is also much bigger, for instance, compared to an accounting job.
Thanks for sharing your opinion, Bram. We would like to understand from you, we know that you are the CEO of the Solventure, which deals with the consulting domain. So probably you have been working with multiple clients in pre-COVID and post-COVID situation. So did you observe that in a post-COVID situation, business are more open to rely on collaboration or integrated business planning rather than doing planning or looking at the supply chain in silos? What was your experience with your clients?
I had very high hopes in this, and on the one hand, a lot of people confirmed to me that it has become much more obvious for non-supply chain people how important supply chain is. So I think it has increased awareness, but I don't always see that in the day-to-day projects we do. Like it's like companies are still a bit in denial. Like this part of the brain understands how important supply chain is, but that part of the brain just continues working like we did before. Or maybe it's that part of the brain and this part of the brain.
Okay.
So we're not necessarily acting in a consistent way with our understanding. And okay, but I also see that as a challenge. So then the question it triggers to me, okay, so what should we do differently to better leverage this moment? Because it's so on the one hand, the relevance of supply chain has been clear. So if people are not changing their behavior, how can we better explain? And that's also what I taught during my presentation today, that maybe we need to rethink existing models. Like you have the Gartner SNOP maturity model, which has 5 stages. I'm convinced that everybody should be at stage 5, but if there is only 5 stages, it doesn't feel, it feels a bit strange to then immediately aim for the highest one. So as part of my new book, I have changed or I have a new proposal, a new model, where instead of 5 stages, there are now 8 stages. And I really feel that it helps, that people will better understand, okay, we are now at stage 1 or 2. Out of 8 stages, that's probably not where we should be. So I think it's also a question to supply chain people. How do we change our mental models so that we do get people moving in the direction we want them to be moving, but we are also convinced is a better outcome and a better place to be for the company.
You mentioned about your book also when you were actually presenting your topic. So would you like to share some glimpse or the summary of the books that has been already published, or the upcoming book which you have just mentioned?
So one of the topics is that supply chain triangle of service, cost and cash. And in the first 2 books, a second key insight is also the impact of the strategy on the triangle. And when I wrote my first book, my initial idea was to write a book on inventory management. Because in the beginning, as a consultant, I had done a lot of inventory optimization projects. My PhD was also on inventory optimization. But then I realized that to answer a simple question, how much inventory does a company need? You need to understand the financial aspect. Because inventory is cash. And finance typically wants to reduce inventory to generate cash. So that's an influence. And also the strategy has an influence. And the example I often use there is like, who has the lowest inventory? A hard discounter like Aldi or Lidl, or a more traditional supermarket like Carrefour or Tesco or Albert Heijn, whatever the traditional supermarket would be in your country. And typically the hard discounter has less inventory. And why is that? Because they have less stock keeping units. And Aldi might have 1,500 SKUs. If I go to a Deleuze in Belgium, they may have 15,000 SKUs. Well, of course, Aldi wants to have less SKUs because they want to focus on efficiency. So they only sell products which are fast moving. Deleuze wants to give a broader choice. So they have more SKUs. But more SKUs means, part of those 15,000 SKUs will be selling less frequently. So on average, the number of days of inventory will go up. It also means that Deleuze will need bigger stores, because I need to display 15,000 SKUs. Deleuze also has bigger distribution centers, because I need to have picking places for 15,000 SKUs. So that strategy, or that strategic positioning, really translates into the supply chain, and also translates into the financial metric like inventory. So those were really the insights for the first books. And I also in the first books showed examples of how companies didn't understand that the companies always want to be the best.
Yeah.
And basically I said, no, you don't want to be the best. If you look at inventory and you're a retailer, you know that Aldi and Lidl will be the best in inventory.
Yeah.
But if I'm, again, Carrefour or Deleuze or Tesco or maybe a Rewe, I don't need to try to get to that inventory level because that would undermine my strategic value proposition. I want to give a broader assortment. So maybe your problem is not in the inventory level. Maybe your problem is in what is the premium that the customer is willing to pay? What is the margin you are able to drive from that strategic positioning? So I give examples on how companies struggled with that. And then, so the third book I'm now writing, I already told like how the sustainability link into that will be part of that. Also, I had I have a book council of senior supply chain execs with whom I do sparring on the contents of the book. And we try to better capture, okay, what are drivers for volatility? Can we gather data to prove that the volatility has increased, yes or no? If the volatility is not matching with the supply chain maturity, where is the impact? So that we can better visualize what is going wrong if we don't upgrade the supply chain capabilities. We also brainstormed about what can we do to become more agile or to become more resilient? What are the drivers for resilience and for agility? And then how do we tie that into a better supply chain design, the more strategic aspect? How do we drive that in better integrated planning? And what is the next step or the evolution SNOP needs to make to really solve the problem we have at hand? Those are the topics that will be covered in the third book.
Okay, thanks a lot for briefly explaining us the agenda of the upcoming book. We would also like to understand your opinion that now we are basically going through a lot of unpredictable situations like war that is happening, the first war that has happened in Ukraine, and now we have the war at Israel. And we are also, of course, discussing a lot of pressing issues in the supply chain. For example, we don't want to hold a lot of inventory because, of course, inventory is equals to cash, and we don't want to invest that much money if it's not that worthy. So what do you think the current economic ongoing situations will shape the supply chain world in future?
I will quote what senior supply chain VPs told me. And they said, like, it's not that pre-COVID there were no issues, but what we are facing today is that the issues are coming more quickly, which basically also means that you don't have time to recover. Like, if you have a big issue every 3 years, okay, you may have 3 or 4 months of instability, but then it stabilizes again. And they really tell me, like, it was COVID and it was Russia, Ukraine. We had the Suez Canal, which was blocked. We might have had hurricanes in the south of the US, which disturbed port activity. And in general, their expectation is that volatility will be here to stay, and from different perspectives, like political, where you feel the tension between the US and China, where China wants to take over. That will be a cause of friction and of unpredictability. Climate change will be a cause of unpredictability. So I think the or the mindset I take, and the question I ask also to executive teams is like, do we think the volatility is here to stay? My feeling is yes. And then my conclusion is, then we need to upgrade our supply chain capabilities. And part of upgrading capabilities is better designing our supply chains. Not just design them for minimum cost, but try to think through, okay, how resilient do I want to be? And what am I willing to make as an extra cost, for instance, to do dual sourcing or to go towards regional sourcing, which might have extra costs and create extra investments. That's why that's really a strategic decision to make. And also be more connected. So be really connected within the company, be connected to key customers and key suppliers.
Yeah.
And their companies still have a long way to go. So SNOP is a cross-functional process.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we, instead of saying we do SNOP, we need to start really doing it, and we need to start really meaning it.
Yeah.
So those are the things we will have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Thanks a lot, Bram, for sharing your opinion and the experiences that you had in the supply chain world after spending decades of years in this industry. Having said that, we would like to ask you the most important question of the day, which is what advice would you like to give to a young professionals who would like to pursue their career in the supply chain domain?
Follow your heart and follow your passion.
Mm-hmm.
Like what are the things which you get energy from? Because that's typically a self-reinforcing cycle. Like if you're good at something, you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because you like it, you spend a lot of time and effort, which makes you better. Yeah. So I think that's important. And at the same time, I would say certainly in the beginning of your career, try to do different things. So if you want to be a good supply chain professional, I think it helps a lot to have some sales experience. I think it helps a lot to have some finance experience. So, and if there's one thing which I would potentially do different is, also earlier on in my career, try to get exposed to more disciplines. I would say maybe not just IT and supply chain, but also get some exposure to finance or to sales. Like what I had to learn everything by myself. I wasn't trained as a supply chain professional, so I read a lot of books, I read a lot of articles, and then I started writing my own books, because if you write your own book, you need to structure your mind. Plus, if you talk about the book, you get a lot of good questions and you get smarter.
Yeah.
So, and I also had to learn about finance myself, because I wasn't trained as a finance professional, and I understood that to move supply chain, I had to understand finance in a better way. So, but I did it from a relatively narrow base. So my advice would also be like, don't give yourself some time. I think that's the best way to say it. Like, give yourself some time to develop not just as an expert in one field, but also take time to get to know other disciplines. And maybe if you also do some other disciplines, it will also be more obvious for you to find out where the true passion is, and make that, and really make a more focused choice, maybe in step 2 or step 3.
Yeah.
Or step 3.
Yeah, sure. That is really helpful. Probably we would like to take a special advice from you. I'm not really sure if it's applicable in your case or not, but the advices that you have shared with the young professionals, while following those advices, how to tackle with the failures or unexpected situations when we are trying to give our 100% to our chosen field and not getting the expected results. Maybe if you would like to quote any of your experience, if you had, that would be really great for audience to understand.
Yeah, there's 2 aspects to it. I think one aspect is don't give up. It's and the closer you are to your passion, the easier that is. On the one hand, I also had moments that when we started with Solventure, that the company was not running well, and then there's 2 options. Either you get very frustrated and very nervous, and then everybody around you also gets very frustrated and very nervous, or you just keep going. And I wouldn't have been the CEO of Solventure if we didn't stick to each other and stay committed during those difficult periods. And also would not have a PhD, or I would not have written books if I didn't go through difficult periods. Because also, like writing a book, that's a lot of fun when the book is finished, but it consumes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Parts of it are fun, the creative part, but the finishing part is also less fun. And it's the same for a PhD. But again,
yeah.
if you carry on and if you stay committed, yeah, that's how you get to results. And the second thing is that, yeah, there will be failures. I also have failures and things I'm not proud of. Yeah, people who left the company and which I wasn't able, yeah, let's say to part with in a good alignment or a good discussion, maybe because people were disappointed. Yeah? I created, yeah, I created expectations or dreams which didn't realize, and that's how people left, and certainly when you're entrepreneurial, and I'm quite entrepreneurial, I want to do new things and I want to move the boundaries. I say that to people. I say I have a book with two sides, and some things are really on the bad side, the failure side, and there's things of which I say, okay, I'm not proud of that, yeah, and I don't feel that I succeeded here and there and there and there. But I often say, but there is also another side, and I hope there's also good things over here, and that's what people confirm. They say, yeah, there are a lot of good things on the other side as well. So I think that's what you need to prepare for, and potentially the wins would not be as sweet if there weren't a couple of failures, to compensate for that. So it's maybe a long and a vague answer, but I hope it's helpful.
Yeah, that was really helpful, and thanks for giving us an opportunity to have a one-on-one interaction with you. Your insights were really helpful, and we wish you a day ahead. Thanks a lot, Bram.
Thank you.